Everyone, and welcome back to DC Central, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my incredibly late review for The Flash Season 7 Episode 3, otherwise entitled Mother, and otherwise known as what would have been the Season 6 finale, so let's discuss. So yeah, as I said, this episode would have been the Season 6 finale, and obviously now it's been moved because of COVID. It got moved obviously to this season, and now we're in Season 7 Episode 3. And this review is very late, I do apologise for that. I literally just have not had the time to make this review. And obviously it's very late because the next episode comes out tonight, but hey ho. This episode obviously does serve as a big one. As I said, it is a season finale episode. It's the end of graphic novel number 2, as Eric Wallace calls it. And it's a big episode, and it definitely wraps up a lot. So let's kick off with my thoughts. So this episode starts out pretty much where the last one left off. We see Iris now out of the Mirrorverse, but basically incapacitated along with the rest of the team. And Barry has essentially given up because he now doesn't have the artificial speed force, he has no powers anymore, and he doesn't see a way of getting his powers back and therefore stopping Eva and saving the day. But this is when it's actually revealed that Iris is the key after he makes physical contact with her, and the lightning strikes through his body again, and you sort of see the energy pump back up. And this is, reminiscent to what we've seen before in The Flash. We've seen it in multiple seasons before, where him and Iris have a special moment. They have that personal, connection that it causes sort of Barry's lightning to strike. And obviously that's where the line, "You are my lightning rod," sort of comes from. So yeah, we have no more artificial speed force. They essentially use Iris as an organic power for the speed force for this device. Instead of being artificial, it's actually like this real force and this real energy that comes between the connection of Barry and Iris. They use that, and this leads to Barry getting his speed back. So we now have Barry with his speed back full time, which is perfect timing for the beginning of Season 7, the proper beginning for Season 7. And like I say, we no longer have the artificial speed force. Iris was the key, and now we use her as like an organic source for the speed force, which I thought was pretty cool. And again, it does link back to many scenes we've seen before in The Flash. It does link back to the line of "You are my lightning rod." We do get that re-emphasized here, so I quite enjoyed that. And again, it's nice to have Barry with his speed back and ready to go for the next season. Now, this episode finally gives us the conclusion to the Eva McCulloch Mirror Master arc, and we have a really cool fight between Team Flash and Eva. It's basically, we have Barry, Cisco, and Caitlin going up against Eva and her many mirror duplicates. And this was really cool. I mean, first of all, Vibe gets into the action. Like I say, Cisco was actually in the fight. We actually get to see Vibe with a new suit and also with new weapons, which is interesting because obviously Vibe in Season 5 and also throughout Season 6 didn't want to be a superhero anymore. He didn't want his powers anymore. But now we have him as Vibe again, but with these new weapons. He's not a meta anymore, but he kind of has these sonic weapons, kind of reminiscent of Black Canary's tech that he made for Laurel during Arrow Season 3 and 4. Kind of reminiscent to that, and obviously Cisco did make that technology, so it kind of makes sense that he'd be able to bring it in for himself. But it seems like Vibe is back in some degree, maybe not as frequently as we used to get him, but he's still around. And we have this new suit, which is a lot more of like a tactical looking suit. It looks quite cool, to be honest. Like I say, I'm just a little bit confused on all that, but he is in the fight. And we do also get the official name drop for Eva McCulloch, which was interesting, because we've all been calling her different things, like Mirror Master, Mirror Mistress. Turns out what her name is Mirror Monarch, which I thought was pretty cool. I like that name, Mirror Monarch, pretty cool villain name. So when we talk about, who is the villain for the back half of The Flash Season 6, it was Eva McCulloch / the Mirror Monarch, which I thought was a pretty cool reveal. Now, this finale fight was decent, but I will say I do feel like this season finale fight was very reminiscent to the Season 4 finale fight, where you had Barry and Ralph fighting DeVoe and like all of his versions in like that mindscape. It's just very similar to that. You have Eva instead of DeVoe, and you just have, DeVoe had all of his duplicates, and Eva has loads of duplicates, so it just felt very similar to that. But we do have Iris actually fighting Eva in this episode, which was pretty cool. She comes out, and she kind of has these mirror powers, like sort of almost telekinetic powers, like with, glass and reflective surfaces. So she ends up kind of fighting Eva very briefly, which was definitely a weird one, because I wasn't quite sure what they're going to do with Iris going forward, especially with her powers and stuff. But it seems like we actually, she got to use her powers a little bit here, but I think those powers are going to subside. I don't think we're going to see them ever again. But for the Team Flash versus Eva fight, it was pretty good stuff. And Eva is ultimately defeated in a new way. We actually see her talked down from her villainous position, which was definitely very different. I know a lot of people don't like this. I know a lot of people have found this very boring and very weak and a bit lame, that she wasn't actually like defeated, she was just kind of talked back into, you know, being a good person again. But I will say, for me personally, sure, it wasn't what I was expecting, but I saw that as a good thing. Like, I thought this was very different to every other Flash finale we've had. It was very different from every other main villain takedown, because normally every other takedown is, you know, if it's a speedster, you basically just race them until they get erased, or, you know, in the case of DeVoe and Cicada, they were both just taken down and or killed. Whereas in the case of Eva, you know, she just returns to the Mirrorverse and becomes a good guy again, at least to some degree, which again I thought was definitely different, but kind of interesting. And again, I like the fact that it was different. I thought it just gave this season finale and this villain and the end of this villain arc a bit of a different flavour. Now, in the last episode, we saw the return of Tom Cavanagh as the original Harrison Wells, and he got to play a role in this episode, and it was so great to have him back. This is kind of the Wells, interestingly, that we could spend the least amount of time with, which is funny because he is the original. But we find out he has time travel abilities, and he leaves at the end of the episode, which was kind of interesting. He can basically just time travel at any point. They don't really explain how he can time travel. He doesn't really explain. Like, Cisco asks him, but he doesn't really explain. He just sort of does it. But yeah, I mean, this new version, or this old version of Wells, I should say, the OG one, was really great to have back. It was really nice to have him on the show again, even if it was for this first episode, because like I said, he does leave at the end. I mean, this still throws up the question, you know, is Tom Cavanagh gone? We've been talking about this since the beginning of Season 7, you know, what's going on with Tom Cavanagh? Because all the Welleses are dead. This Wells is now gone, but he's not dead, so he could come back. So is Tom just not going to be a regular anymore, or is he just going to be a recurring character, or is he going to be playing someone else? We don't really know. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens. I mean, I believe Tom Cavanagh has still been on set recently, so he's clearly still around on the show, and obviously we haven't had any announcements of him leaving. Normally, if a character, like a big character, like, you know, someone like Tom Cavanagh, if he were to leave the show, we would have got a press release for that, and they would have told us that he was leaving. But we haven't had that, so he's clearly still on the show in some description, but we don't know to what degree quite yet. But I loved having the original Harrison Wells here. It was really nice to have him there. And again, it was a very different flavoured Wells from what we've seen before. Obviously, it is very reminiscent of what we got in Season 1 with that version of Wells, which was obviously the Reverse Flash. But obviously actually a good guy instead of a bad guy, which was nice. Now, Ralph and Sue are officially written out of the show here, which was very, very interesting. And this is something I've been waiting for, obviously, with the situation that happened back in the summer with Hartley Sawyer. Obviously, we knew Ralph was gone, but I was very interested to see how they were going to do it. And it was really dumb. It was really dumb. Now, what I will say is it's quite character consistent for Ralph in regards to how he reacts and how he kind of plays it. And the actor who voiced this version of Ralph, like whoever they got to voice it, like played it very much like Hartley Sawyer would have played it. It's very character consistent, but in terms of actually how they did it, it was very dumb. You basically have Sue and Ralph show up, and he basically gets exploded, and his face is just all mangled. His whole body is just mangled. He looked kind of disgusting. And they put him in like this suit that kind of makes him look like one of the members of Daft Punk, and he comes out and he gets written off the show, and him and Sue leave together. So again, it was really dumb, in my opinion. It was really kind of stupid, but then at the same time, I'm like, it was character consistent, and also, what are you going to do? Like, this isn't something they would have planned for. This isn't something they really put much thought into. They were like, we just need to write Ralph out of the show in some way, so this is how we're going to do it. My big question now, though, is Sue gone? Because, obviously, it'd be kind of sad and kind of a dick move to write Sue out of the show as well, given the fact that she has nothing to do with Hartley Sawyer. It'd be kind of unfair for her to lose out on a job role just because Hartley Sawyer messed up. So I'm wondering if Sue is going to come back, and in that case, will Ralph come back played by a different actor? Like I've discussed before, that obviously with Ralph's abilities, his powers, we could easily get a recast for that character, and it would totally be within his character set, his character's like power set. So maybe Sue and Ralph will come back at some point. They do kind of hint at the fact that they can come back. Like I say, I really hope Sue isn't gone, just because I think that's really unfair to Natalie Dreyfus if she doesn't get the chance to reprise the role, just because it's just really unfair, to be honest. Like, I know Ralph and Sue are very much a couple now, and very much like a pairing, but it would really suck for her if she has to lose her out on her job just because of Hartley Sawyer's, you know, mistakes in the past. But still, it wasn't the best. It was how it was written and how it was done, but at the same time, I did find it kind of funny. I did find it character consistent, and again, they had to do something, and this is what they did, so I thought it was fine in the overall grand scheme of things. Not the best, but fine. Now, we do get a little post-credit scene which has 18 hours earlier, and this basically returns back to the point where Barry got his speed back. And this, I'm guessing, is the setup for Season 7 officially, where we see very different coloured lightnings coming out at the top of Star Labs and striking over Central City. So, well, what does this mean? Well, based on what people online have been saying, apparently this is the Sage, Strength, Still, and Speed Force, which are different versions of the Speed Force that exist within the Flash comics. I believe it came in through Rebirth, so it's fairly new. It may have been the New 52, I'm not quite sure. But what does this mean for the show? Well, I think this could very much be a Season 1 style thing, where we're going to see a bunch of new metas, like Villains of the Week, which obviously Flash always does. But these Villains of the Week are going to be based on these Sage, Strength, Still, and Speed Force. So maybe we're going to see a few more Speedster villains this season, and this could potentially lead to Godspeed. I mean, we pretty much know that Godspeed is in this season, and he's going to be playing a role in it. I very much believe that Godspeed is going to be the villain of either the first half or the back half of the season, probably more likely the back half. So this could be hinting at that, especially if, if we're having a version of the Speed Force striking Central City, odds are Godspeed's going to be involved in that. So I think that this is basically what it is. It's going to give us multiple villains of the week based on these different versions of the Speed Force, and then eventually it's going to give us our second half of the season big bad for graphic novel number 4 in the form of Godspeed. That's how I believe this is going to go down. Now, speaking of graphic novels, obviously graphic novel number 3 has now begun. Episode 4 of Season 7 is out tonight. And this is a very cool episode. I'm very much looking forward to this one because we actually have the return of David Dastmalchian as Abracadabra, who we haven't seen since Season 3. And this is a really cool villain, like a really great villain. Obviously, David Dastmalchian's such a great actor from movies like The Dark Knight, Blade Runner 2049. He's going to be in the Suicide Squad playing Polka Dot Man, so he's also in the Ant-Man movie, so he's a pretty well-versed actor in terms of the superhero genre at this point. He's been in all the different things. But Abracadabra was a really cool standout villain of the week, like a true standout villain of the week from Season 3. And honestly, he's a villain I would love to see so much more of. I think he's a villain who could honestly carry his own season, especially with an actor like David Dastmalchian playing him. So I'm very happy we're bringing him back, and I hope this isn't a one-episode thing. I would honestly love if he's the villain for the first half of this season. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I think it'd be really cool if we got that. Or at least if we get more of him throughout the season and other seasons going forward. Because again, I think he's such a cool villain, so interesting in his power set, and just a very fun character too, and David Dastmalchian plays him so well. I would love to see him more. So I'm very excited to see what we're going to do with him in this episode. But anyway, graphic novel 3 does begin tonight, so let's see how that goes, and make sure you stay tuned for my review for that episode as well, which I promise will be quicker than this one was. I'll get that up as soon as possible for you guys. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please give it a like. It'll help me out a lot. And share this video with anyone else you think may enjoy this content. And as always, I hope to see you guys again in my next video, whenever that may be.